Jigsaw, made 7 years after the final chapter. It's sort of a sequel and sort of a soft reboot. We open up, cops laying down spiky things to pop a tire of some guy. This guy has a remote. Detective Halloran and Hunt are on the scene, and Halloran says they need to shoot at the remote. They do, but it activates the thing, and someone accidentally hit him. The thing he activated is a trap, similar to Saw 5, but here all these bucketheads wake up and they're getting pulled towards the thing. All they have to do is give a little blood, of any amount, to these saws, as they get pulled towards it. So most of them accidentally solve it, well, except for Sleepy over here, who slept through the whole thing, and then he's found hung up. At the autopsy, one of the nurses has a lightsaber pen. These are Eleanor and Logan. Logan knows Hunt. They find a jigsaw mark in him. They speculate it's a copycat, and apparently it's been 10 years since the last film. Kind of weird to think that if Saw 1 takes place the year it came out, and it's been 10 years since Saw 3D, that means from Saw 1 to 7 was only 3 years. Continuing the autopsy, they find a tape in him. Nah, but seriously, they find a drive in him. And it's Jigsaw's voice saying the game's begun again. Back at the barn, we meet our peoples. Mitch, Carly, Ann, and Ryan. Animatronic and now LED-eyed Billy rolls up and says that they need to confess. Mitch remembers the time he sold a motorcycle slightly used because the brakes were broken and he crashed immediately after. He snags the tape player from Billy, but stops the chains moving. But then the tape reveals that Carly was a purse snatcher, and she stole from an asthmatic, and she's been poisoned. One vial has antidote, one's a dud, and one has acid in it. Well, the way to solve this is just simply take one, drip a little out to see if it's acid or not on your hand, or use all the hay on the floor, and then just jab yourself with the other two. But then the chains start pulling them up, and they start swinging. All the needles have codes, it's probably the 353, so they panic and just jab all of them into her, which stops the chains, and now they realize there's a code, and they use one to unlock a safe, lock on a door. They see a no exit sign, but ignore it and just rush it. But because of that, Ryan gets the garrote wire on the leg. He sees the tape but hesitates to grab it at first. The other two enter a silo. But then Billy appears, now in HD and looking nice. Looking a lot nicer than John's face paint on the cover. Bro needs some lotion or something. Billy explains if Ryan pulls the lever, he'll lose a leg, but the others won't be drowned in the silo. But eventually I guess he runs out of weed, so he just starts chucking things at the guys. Ryan hesitates, but eventually he pulls it and turns his leg into sushi. But also gets rid of all the wheat and opens the door. Back with the cops, they found some blood samples under the guy's nails.
John Kramer.
What? That's impossible.
It's a fact.
Logan goes to the bar and meets Eleanor. It almost looks like a different movie. But then they go back to her place, and she's got a jigsaw layer of memorabilia, such as the Bloody Eagle from Saw 3, Strom's Aquarium from Saw 5, and a reverse bear trap. Hunt thinks this is weird. Meanwhile, the opening guy is okay, but he gets poisoned. Mitch finds the tape, but he gets strung up. And the tape plays, and it turns out the guy he sold the motorcycle to was John Kramer's nephew, and he got hit by a car. So Mitch gets dangled over a blender with a jigsaw spiral in it, and he's got to hit the brake in the middle. And tries stopping the motorcycle that's making the blender go by sticking a pipe in it, and it works. For a few seconds, and then Mitch gets blended. Then the cops are like, okay, let's see if Jigsaw's actually dead by digging up his body. And it turns out, the opening guy's down there. He's got a jigsaw piece cut out of him. I mean, the obvious from here is see who else rented an excavator. But instead they go to Eleanor's place, and they find Mitch's curly fry of a body. Hunt goes to talk to Logan about this, and Logan's like, you know what? Halloran's kind of really hardcore about this case. He might be hiding something. Later, Eleanor visits Logan and says that they might be happening all at Jill's pig farm, which she has apparently. Back at the farm, Eleanor just tries going through the don't exit door again, but then she gets pig masked. Her and Ryan wake up in a room and meet Jigsaw. Yeah, in his Soul Patch era, still played by the wonderful Tobin Bell. He explains at the hospital he accidentally got his x-rays swapped, and it turned out he had cancers a lot longer and he could have done something earlier. Whoops. America. He explains that Ryan used to be a party boy until all of his friends got killed. Anne blames her husband for rolling over onto their kid, but Jigsaw knows that this is wrong because he was Anne's neighbor. And it turns out she just pillowed the kid and framed her husband. He didn't know any better and felt really bad and hung himself. Listen to his parents, buy better headphones if your kid's being annoying. But Jigsaw's a fair guy. But pause, because we have to see Eleanor and Logan head to the farm, and Hunt finds the Jigsaw pieces in his fridge. Unpause with Jigsaw. He says they got it all backwards, and this is their key out. And he loads the shotgun and leaves them. Logan and Eleanor are looking around, and then Halloran jumps Logan. Back in the game, Anne grabs the gun first. And then Ryan realizes, wait a minute, they have it backwards. Don't! And Anne shoots it, but then it backfires and hits her. And then, of course, because Jigsaw, he meant it literally because the shotgun shell had the keys in it. So Ryan's stuck there. Meanwhile, Halloran gets jabbed in the back. Him and Logan wake up, strapped to sci-fi collars. They have to hit the Jeopardy buttons to see who's confessing. Logan isn't fast enough and he's got to confess that he was the doctor who accidentally swapped John Jigsaw's x-rays. Whoops. Then the collar shoots lasers off and kills him. What the hell? But then Halloran's collar goes off and he confesses that he's a corrupt cop. We get our Saw twist, and Logan is fine. He takes the collar off, and it turns out he was recording everything. And the trap we watch actually did happen in the past, because, as it turns out, Logan was sleepy from earlier, and then John Jigsaw saved him, because this isn't about revenge. He sewed him up because he likes collecting interns. Watch and Saw X, Logan, Amanda, and Hoffman are going to somehow meet. Logan was the guy who shot the guy in the beginning. With incredible accuracy, he used AI to make Jigsaw's voice. He used John's blood under the guy's nails, which they had for reasons. He was the one who planted the Jigsaw pieces in Hunt's fridge. And finally, he activates the collar and turns Halloran's head into a bloody CGI flower. Or I guess it could also be a Demi Gorman head. And instead of saying game over, he says he speaks for the dead. Which seems kind of wrong for this franchise because this whole thing's not really meant to be for revenge. That was kind of Jigsaw's thing. It's all for everyone has a chance to escape. That also means he killed some random guy for Sleepy's body earlier. Final body count? 16. This movie's better than the final chapter, but it's not great. Jigsaw is, though. Tobin Bell always kills it. The sets look nice, and it's always fun seeing references to the past series, showing that the creators at least did care to reference it. But for everything else, the film just feels kind of Hollywoody. All the actors look nice, like actors. They don't look like normal people like all the characters in the past films did. The twist that the trap was all happening in the past rather than currently, unlike Saw 2, doesn't really work, except for the Jigsaw reveal, which did kind of get me. The characters aren't watching everything like in Saw 2, so there's not really a sense of this might be happening currently, other than everyone just thinking it is. They also do a real bad job saying it happened in the past because all the TVs are modern, and Billy has like LED eyes, which he never had before. They didn't really make an effort to make it look like the earlier films. And of course the lasers are really dumb and futuristic-y, or all the other Saw traps were clearly handmade and made sense. Overall, this is an okay film that's watchable, but it's definitely not as great as like the past Saw films, but it is still way better than the final chapter. Maybe a 5 out of 10.